The fluorescent lights of the Grandview Hotel buzzed overhead as Maria wiped down the marble counter in the executive lounge. Her hands moved mechanically, muscle memory guiding each stroke while her mind drifted to the stack of bills waiting at home. 16-hour shifts were destroying her body, but her daughter's college tuition wasn't going to pay itself. At 42, Maria looked older. The lines around her eyes told stories of sleepless nights and endless worry. She had come to New York from a small town in Texas 15 years ago, chasing the American dream with nothing but determination and a second-hand suitcase. The dream had turned out to be much harder than she imagined. Her daughter Sophie was everything to her. At 19, the girl was brilliant, having earned a partial scholarship to Columbia University. But partial wasn't enough. Maria worked 3 jobs to cover the rest, cleaning hotel rooms by day, office buildings at night, and picking up weekend shifts wherever she could find them. The executive lounge was usually empty at this hour, 6 in the morning, before the business travelers descended for their complimentary breakfast. Maria preferred it this way. Silence gave her space to think, to plan, to dream about the day when Sophie would graduate and they could finally breathe. She was scrubbing a particularly stubborn coffee stain when her phone buzzed. Sophie's name lit up the screen. "Mom, I left my laptop charger at home. Can you bring it when you come?" Maria sighed. Sophie was staying late at the library again, probably pulling another all-nighter. The girl pushed herself too hard, just like her mother. "Of course, Mija. I'll drop it off after my shift. Thank you. Love you. Love you more." Maria pocketed her phone and moved to the next table. That's when she saw it. A watch, gleaming under the harsh lights, left carelessly near the coffee station. She picked it up carefully, turning it over in her weathered hands. The weight alone told her it was expensive. The face was pristine, with intricate details she couldn't begin to understand. There was an engraving on the back, "To Marcus, for 20 years of excellence." J.H. Her first instinct was to turn it in to lost and found immediately. That's what the hotel policy demanded. But something made her pause. She thought about Sophie, about the tuition bill due next week, about the landlord who was threatening eviction if they were late on rent one more time. No, she shook her head firmly. That wasn't who she was. That wasn't who she raised Sophie to be. She slipped the watch into her apron pocket and continued cleaning, planning to drop it off at the front desk before her shift ended. But fate had different plans. Marcus Chun strode into the lounge like he owned it. At 35, he was the hotel's director of operations, young for such a position but ruthlessly efficient. His tailored suit probably cost more than Maria made in 3 months. He had that particular brand of arrogance that came from never having struggled for anything in life. He spotted Maria and snapped his fingers. The sound made her flinch. "Hey you, have you seen a watch? I left it here last night." Maria's hand instinctively went to her apron pocket. Before she could respond, Sophie burst through the service entrance, her backpack slung over one shoulder. The girl wasn't supposed to be here. This was Maria's workplace, her world, separate from her daughter's life. "Mom, I'm sorry. I know you said not to come here, but I really need that charger and—" Sophie stopped mid-sentence, noticing Marcus for the first time. Then her eyes went wide. She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out the watch Maria had found. "I found this watch in the lobby bathroom when I was looking for you. I was going to give it to security, but—" Marcus's face transformed from impatient to furious in an instant. He lunged forward and snatched the watch from Sophie's hand. "You little thief. You found it in the bathroom? That's the oldest trick in the book. You probably stole it from the lounge." Sophie stumbled backward, shocked. Maria stepped between them immediately, her maternal instincts overriding everything else. "My daughter is not a thief. She just told you she found it." Marcus laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the empty lounge. His eyes swept over Maria's worn uniform, Sophie's patched jacket, their tired faces. "Right? And I'm supposed to believe that? Look at you two. You probably planned this together. Steal from the guests, sell it later. I've seen this scam 100 times. Maria's hands trembled with rage and humiliation. She wanted to scream, to defend herself and her daughter, but the words caught in her throat. She needed this job. They needed this job. Sophie's eyes filled with tears, but she stood tall. I'm telling the truth. I found it and I was trying to return it. Marcus pulled out his phone. We'll see what security has to say about this. You're both finished here. The security office felt like a cage. Maria sat on a hard plastic chair, Sophie beside her, both silent as Marcus paced back and forth like a predator circling prey. Two security guards stood by the door, their faces impassive but their presence intimidating. Marcus had already given his version of events. The watch, he claimed, had been left on the lounge table. Sophie had clearly stolen it, and Maria was probably in on it. The whole thing was a coordinated theft attempt by desperate people who saw an opportunity. The head of security, a gruff man named Davidson, looked uncomfortable. He had worked with Maria for 3 years and never had a single complaint about her. But Marcus was management, and management's word carried weight. Miss Rodriguez, do you have anything to say? Sophie's voice was steady despite the tears streaming down her face. I told you already. I found the watch in the women's bathroom on the lobby level. It was sitting on the counter by the sink. I picked it up because I didn't want someone else to steal it. I was looking for my mom to ask her what to do with it. Marcus scoffed. The bathroom? Now the story changes. First the lobby, now the bathroom. Which is it? Sophie's jaw tightened. I said I found it in the lobby bathroom. That hasn't changed. Davidson made a note on his clipboard. We'll review the security footage from both locations. Marcus's eyes flashed with something that looked almost like panic, but it disappeared so quickly Maria thought she imagined it. Good. Do that. And while you're at it, check the lounge cameras too. I want to see if this woman was snooping around my table. Maria finally found her voice. I clean that lounge every morning. Of course I was near your table. That's my job. Your job is to clean, not to steal. The words hit Maria like a physical blow. In all her years of backbreaking work, through all the humiliation of being invisible to the wealthy guests she served, no one had ever directly called her a thief. Her hands clenched in her lap. Sophie stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Don't talk to my mother that way. She works harder than you ever will. She's honest and good, and you have no right to accuse her of anything. Marcus stepped closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Your mother is a maid. You're nobody. In this hotel, I could have you both arrested right now. The only reason I haven't is because I'm feeling generous. Maria pulled Sophie back down, her grip tight on her daughter's arm. Please, Sophie, don't. The door suddenly opened. Davidson looked up from his clipboard, clearly not expecting anyone else. A man in an expensive charcoal suit walked in, his silver hair perfectly styled, his presence commanding immediate attention. Marcus went pale. Mr. Harrison. James Harrison was a legend in the hospitality industry. He owned 17 luxury hotels across the country, and the Grandview was his crown jewel. At 63, he had built an empire on the principle that how you treated your staff reflected how you treated your guests. He didn't visit often, but when he did, everyone felt it. Marcus practically tripped over himself trying to stand straighter. Mr. Harrison, sir, I wasn't expecting you this morning. We're just handling a small theft situation. Harrison raised one hand, silencing him instantly. His sharp blue eyes scanned the room, taking in Maria's tear-stained face, Sophie's defiant posture, the security guards looking anywhere but at him. A theft situation involving my employee and what appears to be a teenager. Marcus swallowed hard. Yes, sir. My watch was stolen from the executive lounge, and this young woman had it in her possession. Her mother works here as a maid, and I believe they coordinated. Where exactly did you leave this watch, Marcus? At the coffee station in the lounge. I took it off to wash my hands and forgot it there. Harrison turned to Sophie. And where did you find it, young lady? Sophie met his gaze directly. In the women's bathroom in the lobby, sir. On the counter by the sinks. I picked it up because I didn't want it to get stolen, and I was looking for my mom to ask her what to do with it. Harrison nodded slowly, then looked at Davidson. Have you checked the security footage yet? Davidson shifted uncomfortably. We were just about to, sir. Do it now. I'll wait. The tension in the room was suffocating as Davidson pulled up the security system on his computer. Everyone crowded around the screen. The timestamp showed the previous evening, around 11 p.m. The footage from the lounge appeared first. Marcus was there, talking on his phone, agitated. He paced back and forth, then suddenly stripped off his watch and threw it. The angle made it hard to see exactly where it landed, but it clearly wasn't on the coffee station. It sailed through the air toward the back of the lounge, near the service corridor. Marcus's face drained of color. I don't remember doing that. I was upset about a call. I must have. Harrison held up his hand again. Show me the bathroom footage. The next video showed Sophie entering the lobby bathroom at 5:47 a.m. She walked to the sink, washed her hands, then noticed something on the counter. She picked up the watch, examined it carefully, then put it in her jacket pocket and left. The entire sequence took less than 2 minutes. Harrison turned to Marcus, his voice like ice. So your watch wasn't at the coffee station. You threw it in anger, and it somehow ended up in the bathroom. This young woman found it and tried to return it. And you accused them both of theft. If you're rooting for Maria and Sophie right now, take a moment and subscribe to the channel. This turning point is just the beginning of something incredible. Marcus opened his mouth to speak, but Harrison wasn't finished. The old man's jaw was set in a way that made everyone in the room nervous. In my 30 years of running hotels, I've learned that character reveals itself under pressure. You, Marcus, just revealed yours. You were so quick to accuse these women, so certain of their guilt, that you didn't even bother to check the facts first. Sir, I apologize. I was mistaken about the location, but I still think... You think what? That because they're not wealthy, they must be criminals? That because this woman cleans toilets for a living, she has no integrity? Maria felt something crack open inside her chest. For years, she had swallowed every insult, every dismissive look, every moment of being treated as invisible. She had told herself it didn't matter, that pride didn't pay bills. But hearing someone defend her, someone with power, made her realize how much those small cruelties had cost her. Harrison turned to Maria, his expression softening. How long have you worked here? 3 years, sir. And in those 3 years, has anyone ever complained about your honesty? No, sir. Never. Davidson cleared his throat. Maria has a spotless record, Mr. Harrison. She's one of our most reliable employees. Harrison nodded, then looked at Sophie. And you, young lady, what's your name? Sophie Rodriguez, sir. What are you doing awake at 5 in the morning, Sophie Rodriguez? Sophie glanced at her mother before answering. I'm a student at Columbia. I was studying all night at the library. I came to bring my mom something she forgot, and I saw the watch in the bathroom. I knew it was valuable, so I picked it up. Columbia? Harrison's eyebrows rose. What are you studying? Business administration and economics. I want to work in hospitality management someday. Something flickered across Harrison's face, a mix of respect and recognition. He turned back to Marcus, and his voice became steel. You're fired, effective immediately. Clear out your office by noon. Marcus went white. Mr. Harrison, please, I've worked here for 8 years. This is just a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. You abused your authority, you humiliated innocent people, and you showed the exact opposite of what this company stands for. Security will escort you out. The guards moved forward. Marcus looked around desperately, as if someone might save him, but everyone avoided his eyes. As he was led from the room, he shot Maria and Sophie a look of pure hatred. Harrison waited until the door closed, then sat down heavily. He suddenly looked every one of his 63 years. He gestured for Maria and Sophie to sit as well. I need to apologize to both of you. What happened here today should never have happened. You deserved better. Maria's voice was barely a whisper. Thank you, sir. But Harrison wasn't done talking yet. Harrison leaned back in his chair, studying Sophie with an intensity that made her shift uncomfortably. Finally, he spoke. Columbia is expensive. Even with scholarships, the costs are crushing. How are you managing? Sophie glanced at her mother, unsure how much to reveal. Maria answered instead, her voice quiet but steady. I work 3 jobs, sir. We make it work. 3 jobs. Harrison shook his head slowly. And you still found time to raise a daughter who picks up a valuable watch and tries to return it instead of pocketing it. That says everything about your character, Mrs. Rodriguez. Maria felt tears threatening again, but this time they weren't from humiliation. They were from relief, from exhaustion, from years of being unseen finally ending in this one moment of recognition. Harrison stood and walked to the window, looking out at the Manhattan skyline as dawn broke over the city. When I was 23, I was working as a night janitor at a hotel in Boston. One night, I found an envelope full of cash in a conference room. $3,000. That was more money than I had seen in my entire life. He turned back to face them. I turned it in. The guest who lost it gave me a $50 reward, and my supervisor noticed. That supervisor became my mentor. He's the one who helped me buy my first hotel. Everything I have today started because I made the right choice when no one was watching. Sophie's eyes widened as she understood where this was going. Harrison pulled out his phone and made a call. Jenny, I need you to prepare a full scholarship package for a Columbia student. Full tuition, books, housing stipend. Yes, starting immediately for the spring semester. I'll send you the details. He hung up and looked at Sophie. You're going to finish your degree without your mother having to work herself to death. Consider it a scholarship from the Harrison Foundation. Sophie's hands flew to her mouth. She couldn't speak. Maria stood up, trembling. Sir, we can't accept. Yes, you can. And you will. Harrison's voice was firm but kind. Maria, I'm also promoting you. I need a new director of housekeeping. The position comes with a significant salary increase, benefits, and reasonable hours. You've earned it. Maria's legs gave out. She sat down hard, her mind unable to process what was happening. This morning she had been worried about eviction. Now her daughter's education was secured and she had a job that might actually let her sleep at night. Sophie finally found her voice. Why are you doing this? Because 30 years ago, someone gave me a chance when I needed it most. Because your mother has been working 3 jobs and still raised a daughter with integrity. Because this is what's right. He walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and Maria? Take the rest of the week off. Paid. Spend some time with your daughter. You've earned that too. The door closed softly behind him, leaving Maria and Sophie alone in the security office, holding each other as they cried tears of joy and disbelief. 2 years later, the spring sun streamed through the windows of Columbia University's graduation hall. Maria sat in the audience, wearing a dress she had bought without checking the price tag first. That small luxury still felt foreign but wonderful. On stage, Sophie walked across to receive her diploma, magna cum laude. Her smile was radiant, confident in a way that only came from knowing she had earned every bit of her success. Maria's heart swelled with pride so intense it was almost painful. After the ceremony, they met outside on the lawn. Sophie threw her arms around her mother, and they stayed like that for a long moment, remembering all the years of struggle that had led to this victory. I'm so proud of you, Mija. Sophie pulled back, her eyes shining. I couldn't have done it without you, Mom. Everything I am is because of you. They were interrupted by a familiar voice. Congratulations, Sophie. James Harrison approached, looking distinguished in a gray suit. He had aged well in the past 2 years, seeming more energized than ever. Beside him was his wife Eleanor, a warm woman who had become something of a mentor to Sophie over the past months. Mr. Harrison, Mrs. Harrison, thank you so much for coming. Harrison smiled. I wouldn't have missed it. Besides, I have news. We're opening a new hotel in Boston, and I need a management trainee for the operations department. The job is yours if you want it. Sophie's eyes went wide. She looked at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. I want it. Absolutely. Good. You start in 2 months. That gives you time to celebrate and rest. Maria shook Harrison's hand. Thank you, sir, for everything. You changed our lives. Harrison's expression grew serious. No, Maria. You changed your own life through years of hard work and sacrifice. I just made sure that work was finally recognized. That's what should have happened all along. As the Harrisons walked away to greet other graduates, Sophie turned to her mother. "Remember that morning? When I found the watch?" Maria laughed. "How could I forget? I was terrified we'd both end up in jail. Instead, we ended up here." They stood together, watching the other graduates celebrate with their families, soaking in the moment. Maria thought about all the nights she had cried herself to sleep, wondering if she was failing her daughter. She thought about the humiliation, the exhaustion, the fear, and she thought about how one moment of integrity, one simple choice to do the right thing, had transformed everything. Sophie squeezed her hand. "What are you thinking about?" Maria smiled. "I'm thinking that we made it, Mija. We really made it."